What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here for our monthly dose of gem rate data. And what a doozy of a month April was when it comes to the grading world in both sports cards and TCG. Long story short, too long, didn't read. PSA puts a smackdown on everybody in the month of April, at least from a number of cards hitting the pop report perspective. Just an absolute decimation. You see the top card here. PSA held firm. 1.22 million cards graded in the month of April. SGC down 22%. CGC down 32%. We don't have CSG numbers. They're still on pop report maintenance. I don't know what they're doing to that pop report, but they've been in pop report maintenance for a long time. Beckett down 21% as well. Huge drop-offs across the board, and PSA barely, not even touched at all. They just keep on keeping on as the gap really continues to widen, at least in the month of April. Let's look at the individual category numbers real quick, and then we'll just kind of do a quick rundown. Sports cards, PSA down slightly, 1%. That's a drop in the bucket to them. SGC down 23%. Now, we'll have to see how that number, I'm going to imagine, we'll kind of get in a little bit of prediction territory here. I would imagine their sports card number probably gets a little decent bump in the month of May because of the $9 Bowman special. They have proven before when they run these $9 specials that it churns business, and the amount of Bowman that is getting ripped right now is absolutely insane, and they are going to pick up a portion of that business with that $9 special. So I wouldn't be surprised if their sports card category bounced back. Beckett down 7% on the sports card category. And then CSG, we are not 100% sure. TCG, PSA rolled out their new pricing. I don't believe that would have an impact quite yet on this pop report because the PSA numbers kind of lag behind. CGC down 32%. Big fall off for CGC cards this month. Beckett down 34%. Big drop off there. And SGC down 14%. We saw, what was that, 2 months ago now? They got the little spike up from the TCG special that they did, the Pokemon special that they did. And those numbers have seemed to trail back off. A return to normal, I guess, is the more accurate statement. And PSA is now currently sitting at $15 a card for modern TCG, at least at the low end, declared value-wise. My favorite slide on this whole thing is this one. It's the item graded by month chart. And the PSA line is just absolutely staggering when you look at that over the last year. I guess a year plus, actually. How that just went from, what were they at when this started? 750,000, give or take. A few thousand. Now they're flirting with 1.25 million. Absolutely craziness. Absolute craziness. And then that's the one with PSA removed from the list. The individual breakdowns. Let's go back to the top sheet and just kind of chat here for a minute. So PSA just keeps slapping everybody around, basically. No surprise here. SGC numbers falling off at a decent margin is a little bit surprising. CGC numbers falling off a little bit surprising, that much, at least in the TCG space. Once again, I'm guessing that probably has to do with PSA pricing. I'm not really sure. Especially since we just got a new Pokemon set with Scarlet and Violet and coming off the heels of Crown Zenith. You would think there would be a lot of stuff to send in. And then Beckett down 21%. I am not surprised to see a couple of concerning things here. On the Beckett side of things, the fact that they only did 56,000 cards, that's less than just CGC without the CSG numbers in. So from a output of cards hitting pop report, they are dead last by probably a decent margin. We don't know what CSG's numbers are. They usually weren't putting out a ton, but it would definitely widen that gap a little bit. They do most of their business on the CGC side of things right now. I'm going to imagine the Beckett pop report is going to continue to struggle until they get communication with what they are doing with the grading scale. because right now it would be really hard for me to send a card to Beckett. Like, just being honest here. When I don't know what you're doing with your grading scale, I don't have confidence to send you cards in right now, because it could change from a BGS 9.5 and all of a sudden it's a Gem Mint 10, or all of a sudden it's a Mint Plus or a Mint minus Gem plus 9er. Who knows? Until they come out with clear communication on what they're actually doing. And I have a feeling they're seeing the same thing with submission volume drop off. I would imagine that we get news on that sooner rather than later. I don't think this is something that they want to play out over a long period of time, because it is really going to hurt incoming business, because there's just a lack of, one, you've lost consumer confidence to a degree just from all the monkeying around, and then two, like I said earlier, you send a card in and it might grade one way, and then the grading scale might change and it might be something completely different. Or, if do you really want to send a bunch of stuff in when you know the grading scale is changing, and then you probably have to send it back in again to get it relabeled if it ended up bumping up to whatever they end up doing, or bumping down, or whatever the hell ends up happening. So Beckett's in a really awkward place until they get this grading scale thing locked down, and that's why I think they need to move quickly on this from a business standpoint. I know personally, I actually have a couple cards I want to send into Beckett. They're sitting on my desk. I'm not doing anything with them until they announce what they're doing, and then that will make my final decision on if I want to send them to Beckett or if I want to send them somewhere else. I have that extra Jordan Scoring Kings I would like to crack out of the CSG slab and send to Beckett. I have an Evan Mobley Contenders Optic Auto that I think I want to go Beckett over PSA, just because I think it'll be graded a little bit more fairly over at Beckett. So, but I'm not sending that stuff in until I know what's going on. It just does not make sense to. On the CGC / CSG side of things, listen, we could talk in circles about this. They're the best holder in the game, but the resale value on the sports card side specifically is not spectacular. They still, I think, make the most sense for PC cards. I will say, like, having got some Manny Ramirez refractors and stuff in CSG slabs, 90s refractors really pop in a CSG slab. They really do. And with their affordable grading, they are 100% my go-to for anything PC related. And I'll continue to use them for that. And I think, unfortunately, right now, I think that's their niche marketplace, is for PC stuff. A good, cheap option and a really nice slab. Now, I can't speak to the TCG side. That's not my game. That's not my world in regards to how their pricing stacks up compared to PSA. If someone wants to drop some knowledge in the comments down below, feel free. SGC, they just keep doing what they're doing. Now, their numbers dropped off a little bit this month, but they have the reasonable prices. They're not the cheapest in the game anymore. People have undercut them now. But given the turnaround times and the cost per card, it is pretty tough to beat to go along with the customer service. I'll continue to say it. I'm not a huge fan of the slab. It's you either really like it or you really don't. I don't think there's a lot of people that's in the middle on an SGC slab. You either love the tux or you don't. Some cards, I think it looks really good. Some cards, I think it doesn't. So it's really hit or miss for me, which is fine. But from a turnaround time perspective and what their pricing is, very, very strong if you are looking to get in and out of something quick, or you just really like the grading company, perfectly fine. And then we have the elephant in the room of good old PSA just churning out million cards per month. Just grading does not seem to be slowing down at all. Gemrate notes that overall grading activity declined by 4% in April. And remember, we did have one less day in April compared to March, so it would probably end up being flat if we tack on that extra day. But just, it's wild how many cards PSA is grading, and how, like, we all sit here and argue about this grading company catching that grading company and all this, and no one's built to handle that kind of volume besides them. It's really not. Whatever other grading company you like on this list, if you want them to go to number one or whatever, none of them are currently capable of handling a million cards a month. It's absolutely crazy the amount of cards that they put out in a given month. The infrastructure that they must have, regardless of how much time. I know people love to get into the debate of how much time does it take to grade a card. spoilers, none of the grading companies spend that much time grading an ultra modern card. I know that that's hard for a lot of you to hear, but none of the grading companies spend an absorbent amount of time grading an ultra modern card. There's not a need to. And these are professional people, or at least air quotes professional, that look at a billion cards. They look at 1.2 million cards a month. Guess what? When you look at the same cards over and over again, you probably get real quick at being able to evaluate a card on what is a gem mint card versus a non-gem mint card, or where the issues are on those cards. So I don't have a major issue with the whole, do they even spend a minute grading per card? I don't think you need a minute to grade an ultra modern card. I can tell you right now, I don't spend a minute prepping my cards. I don't spend a minute looking over my cards for grading. It takes me less than 60 seconds per card, and I'm not a professional grader. And my gem rate data is pretty solid in regards to returns on orders in terms of how many cards get 10s that don't. So, is what it is. And the only thing that we don't know, everyone likes to get in the weeds and argue about this. And like, oh my God, SGC, they're dropped 22%. They're going to the basement. They're going to close down. CGC, CSG, how are they ever going to stay open? Beckett's a dead company. What are they doing? Remember, folks, the thing that we don't know, any one of these companies not named PSA, with the numbers that they're putting out, the 50 to 90,000 cards a month, they could be extremely profitable at those numbers, making a good amount of money, not stressing out their staff, slightly growing profits, maybe month to month, year to year, whatever the case might be. And they might be perfectly content with that. I know in the comments and on Facebook and in Instagram and Twitter and everything else, the grading wars continue to wage on, and people want their company to be number 2 or number 1 or number 3 or this, that, or the other thing. The thing that we don't know is, do the companies want to be number 1, number 2, number 3, or are they content with the numbers that they're putting out? That's the part that we really don't know. We really don't. I would assume that they're not. I assume they all want to grow up, build market share, bring more cards in the door, build revenues, the whole, kit and caboodle business acronyms here, there, everywhere. It all goes back to how many of them have the infrastructure to scale up to even do a fraction of what PSA is doing in a month. It is really wild. When you look at these numbers, it gets more and more wild every single month. It's crazy. It is crazy. One, people say that the market's dying, this, that, and the other thing. I'm sure there'll be 17 junk slab era comments down below. The economy's bad. This is bad. There's wars. The dollar value sucks. Eggs are expensive. I can't afford to put gas in my car. But boy, oh boy, can we build stacks of plastic out of PSA slabs on a given month. That is a lot of freaking cards, man. Just in general, across the board, but that PSA number just continues to wow me. So that's the gem rate numbers for the month. Very, very interesting as always. I don't expect, for the month of May, I honestly don't expect major pricing shenanigans, at least from the big players. PSA is not going to do anything. They announced their current specials, and I believe those run through the end of May. So they're pretty much set in. SGC just dropped that Bowman special at $9. I guess the question is, does SGC need to reduce a couple bucks a card? We don't know. Their turnaround times are still really solid. They're slightly slower than they used to be. And when I say slightly slower, I mean like a day or two, or like 2 days, 3 days. It's not crazy. So it's based off of that. It seems like they're getting enough cards in the door to be perfectly content. So why lower the price? I don't know what they're getting in compared to what their capacity is on a monthly basis, but it seems like they're doing just fine. CSG, we can't comment because we don't have the numbers. CGC, that's definitely a little bit concerning. And then, like I said, Beckett, I expect that we get an announcement this month. I have no inside information on that. I don't know when an announcement's actually going to be coming in regards to a date, but I just don't think they can wait. The longer they wait, the worse it gets, and the more the consumer confidence fades. So I think the biggest thing that we will see this month on the grading side of things will be whatever Beckett does. Like I said, I have to imagine that comes out this month, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. As always, leave your thoughts, opinions, and comments down below, and we will catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.